Fortunate to have many wonderful speakers come to our campus, but we can only do that once a year with funding through National Women's History Month. But we can probably, you know, the more the merrier. Numbers speak louder than words. I don't know, what is that old saying?
It takes a few dedicated people
Exactly.
and you can put something together like
So that is something we can certainly do, and of course we can continue with these conferences. I like the podcast idea. The video conference idea gets across the whole state, and I think it's a great idea, and you all are first on our list, on our GRITS list.
We also have here in Rutherford County the BC3 Foundation, the Business and Community
That's right.
Connection Partnership that can give you access to some of our local industry and see how science and math are relevant to what's going on, and invite people from those organizations in as well.
Right, we're going back to the relevance again. I know some of our Expanding Your Horizons workshops involved Dr. Sid from our EYH, and he comes because he thinks it's important for girls to get into engineering. We've gotten women engineers from Tennessee Valley Authority to come and talk to our students, and I just remember one EYH workshop, we had 2 nuclear engineers come from TVA, and they came in with all their radiation suits and all these things, and then they told the girls, and it's these little tidbits that they remember and they think about when they're trying to decide on a career. They told the girls that they could not eat a banana before they go into work because of the radioactive potassium isotope in the banana, so they had to really watch what they ate. So it's the relevance of things like this that really gets the girls involved, I think. Do you have any other about math, Debbie?
Oh, I think I'm kind of changing the subject just a little bit, but regarding relevance, I think help boys and girls just to make the teaching of math just as contextual as possible. You know, research has shown you can ask a question in a certain way if it's not in context, as opposed to asking it in some context, and the response rate will be so much better. So I think just as teachers, if we make our math teaching, science teaching tends to be more contextual. I mean, you're dealing with physical things, but math can often get symbolic and abstract, and I think if we can just make it as contextual as possible, it helps. And also, the idea, I think it's good for young women to see women role models, but even, you know, my parents were both, well, my mother was a college graduate, my father was a high school graduate, but I wasn't aware of a lot of careers, even for men or women, you know, that I could have gone into. So just making women aware of, you know, young ladies aware of careers in general that they could go into, whether or not, you know, they don't start out thinking they're not going to be good in that. It's just the society around them that makes them think that. So.
Right, and there's one of the catalysts that got us writing this GRITS grant was a report by the Tennessee Economic Council on Women, who really rightly pointed out that, well, if you're in a STEM career, you're going to get paid better.
That's
so
relevant.
that is certainly relevant. So that's another thing that we're doing with GRITS, is talking about the different careers. But you're right, the young ladies really do not realize. They think, okay, a doctor, and then they mainly think a medical doctor, but they don't know that women can be PhDs and do research or teach at a university.
That's one thing that I tried to do in my classroom, is to really make sure that I am broadening the knowledge base as far as career possibilities go for my students. I took my students to historically black university as a field trip. You know, I had to think, I want these students to be exposed to higher education outside the box. And so we went to Fisk University and we spent a day there, and we visited with faculty members from various departments. We ate in the cafeteria, and the kids had a great time. But when I talk about those kinds of things with my students, I also make sure that I'm talking about how one gets to college, what kinds of classes you need to take in high school, how you need to apply yourself. And I also talk about financial aid, and I talk about that a lot because so many of my students, especially at where I used to teach, they think that those kinds of things are closed off to them from a financial standpoint. And so I make sure to talk about funding opportunities for college and for graduate school so that they think, oh, I didn't realize that was possible. And sort of keep that going in the back of their minds.
So you've got me going now on this Facebook idea, because that is where we can send out a lot of content knowledge about financial aid. This is a due date because I know some students don't realize that they have to have it in by a certain date so they can go as a first-year student at college.
Yes, and it also would help to, we talked about encouraging young girls in traditional STEM areas. There was a study, or I'm not sure it was a study, but it was a group of people that were actually committed to improving the number of people from traditionally underrepresented groups in science, which were specifically African American students. And they found that if they went to school with a group of students that they were already familiar with, they were much more likely to do well in college and to graduate. The woman that initiated this program just recently got a MacArthur Genius Grant for her efforts. And it's called the Posse Foundation, and it came out of a kid saying, I could have done better in college if I'd had my posse with me. And she thought, aha, that's what I need to do. Well, Facebook and MySpace can serve as these girls' posse.
I like that idea. I know girls have met at EYH, and sometimes they get upset when they're put into a group based on their choices of workshops, but then they make friends after they start talking to one another. And I know one young lady who made a friend, and she was looking for her the next year at EYH, and they hooked up again, so that they became friends for life, I think, just from going through some different workshops together.
Yes.
Any other comments you might have?
I know that the America Competes is providing money for young people who are interested in going into math and science education. And I'm not sure exactly if they get a full ride or not. You might know, W. But certainly a good part of their education is paid for, and they do have a commitment of serving in a high-need district after they're finished with their teacher preparation work. But we need good math and science teachers, and you know, I'm tired of losing good people to industry who pays much more. And I really wish there was something we can do about that, but the federal government is providing money on the front end, and maybe that's helpful if people really have a desire or a passion to go into teaching.
I think we could make some inroads with that because, you know, a lot of the girls coming through, they've got the idea that they will be a teacher or they'll be a nurse, and they're not pushed into other areas. But it's okay if they want to do that. They can become a math and science teacher if they've got a joy in when they're in the lab, if they say, aha, when something works right. You know, that's something that we can do as educators, is to encourage them. For example, one of my physical science students is an English teacher-to-be. But when I talked, and I did the same thing you did, Lee, and I'm sure W did this, and Linda, you did this too when you were teaching, I talked about some of my research that I was doing before I came and became an educator at MTSU, and it kind of tweaked her interest. So she started helping me with physical science. We were looking at scientific attitudes of these non-science majors. And now she wants to be a science teacher, but I'm sorry, Linda, her husband's in California, so she's going to California. I mean, she'd be beautiful here. She would be, you know, she grew up here, but she has to leave and go to California. It's our loss because she's a really good student. And she did some really neat research. And she was a little bit nervous when we presented our research at a Science Ed research conference this past August. But I just let her be, and she just took it and ran with it. So just a little bit of encouragement. Going back to what you said at the beginning of this video conference, a little bit of encouragement can certainly make a big difference, I think.
Another thing that I've seen that's been very successful, one of our Explorer schools, our NASA